is WSAZ News Channel 3, 6 o'clock.
First tonight, a WSAZ investigation. If you're a homeowner, you've probably had some work done on your home at some point, whether it be repairs or remodeling, so you know just how important it is to find good quality help. When you're letting someone in your home, you want someone you can trust.
As News Channel 3's Kelsey Soto shows us, families all across our region have found themselves in a nightmare scenario, and their stories have one thing in common: the same contractor.
Violated. I think violated is the best way to say it.
It's what investigators call a story of deception, one that spans multiple counties and crosses state lines over the course of a decade, leaving behind dozens of victims, and at the center of it all, one man accused of swindling them out of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I think the public has a right to be very angry at what's going on here.
According to criminal complaints, Robert Eugene Jones has been telling families all across West Virginia for years that he's a licensed contractor, plumber, and electrician. His website and ads led customers to believe the same. But according to the Division of Labor, Jones has never held a contractor license.
Well, this is a very rich history. We're talking about a serial con artist here. This is a person we've now seen there are multiple felonies.
So we started digging and found from 2010 to 2012, Jones was doing business as HR Services. During that time, he racked up 16 complaints to the West Virginia Attorney General's office. Those complaints led to charges and eventually convictions in Putnam and Cabell County for a number of crimes, including taking money for work that wasn't necessary and not finishing jobs. Those cases landed him behind bars for a few years. While out on work release, he picked up some new convictions in Wood County, West Virginia, and Jefferson County, Ohio, for stealing a vehicle and some trailers. WSAZ has now uncovered prior convictions going back to the early 90s in Orange County, Florida, for burglary and theft, then again in the early to mid 2000s in Hancock County, West Virginia.
Some of the stories that you hear are unbelievable.
And it doesn't stop there.
All rise.
After being released on parole in 2017, Jones started his business back up, this time under a different name, now A Personal Services. Since 2018, 10 more complaints have rolled into the West Virginia Attorney General's office. That prompted the AG's office to file a lawsuit against Jones in Putnam County after they say a home warranty company sent him out to do work at 5 homes, not knowing the license number he gave them to secure those jobs was fake. The Hendelman family in Kanawha County isn't a part of that lawsuit, but says they fell victim to the same scheme after experiencing serious flooding in their basement.
He went in there and they checked the moisture reading on the wall, and it was like 100%, like studs were wet enough that you could move them. So there really was like legitimate problems in our basement.
Mindy says Jones arrived with what appeared to be a license in hand. She says he was a smooth talker and had an answer for every question. 2 months in, he told the family he found black mold, and it was so bad it wasn't safe to live there. So they packed up their 3 children that night and moved out to a furnished apartment.
We weren't too worked up about it because, we saw and, we could kind of see what he was getting at, that it looked mold-ish. He said, we'll get it taken care of, we'll get it fixed. But then that single problem always quintupled. It got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then again he'd get close to finishing up, and it'd always say, I need payment, I need to get my materials, I need this. Whenever we would question some of the charges, sometimes he would become quite defensive, but again he would have a good explanation for here's what's going to happen, here's who I'm going to pay, here's where the money's going to go.
Months later, and after collecting more than $100,000 from the family, Jones abandoned the job, saying he needed more money. The family says they returned home to find bare floors, exposed electrical outlets, holes in the walls, and much of the work unfinished.
He literally left us with like 50% of a house.
Court documents say Jones went as far as telling a few of the victims their home had been struck by lightning, and if they didn't rewire their house immediately, it could catch on fire.
The reality is, who would know whether their house was struck by lightning or not? It's such an implausible thing, but a homeowner may not know that and say, oh, well, okay, well, that I'm sure that this person's telling the truth.
We've talked to several other families who shared similar stories, saying Jones preyed on their fear and lack of experience with home renovation.
We're trusting people. I mean, I'm a resident, and part of my job is to work with my patients. I trust but verify. We didn't do the verification part as accurately as we should have, but we trust, and he didn't give us any reason to mistrust him, at least initially. Betrayed. We put our trust in him. We trusted the system. We trusted what he said. We trusted the payment plans, everything, and it didn't work out like we had anticipated.
In the last few years, we found Jones has been served numerous cease and desist orders from the Division of Labor for operating without a license in at least 6 counties all across the state: Jackson, Mason, Cabell, Putnam, Kanawha, and Boone.
The problem is this guy has so many cases in so many counties that we can't keep up with it, and that's why we're having this hearing today.
We were there as Jones was brought into a Putnam County courtroom earlier this month, where he's facing new charges. He's currently awaiting trial in Jackson County, plus other active cases in Kanawha County. Prosecutors say Jones is also under investigation in Mason County.
Your Honor, I'm glad that this is in front of this court. I'm glad that this is a public hearing because everyone needs to know this man's name and this man's face.
The Attorney General believes there are more victims and hopes they will step out of the shadows to share their stories.
It probably isn't going to happen to most people, but if you're the 1 in 100 person and it happens to you, you'll be glad you took 1 minute of time to research someone, to learn about their reputation, know whether complaints have been filed, know whether they actually have a license or not.
Here are a few simple steps you can take to avoid the headache and hit to your wallet. If you're planning a home improvement project, make sure a completion date is listed, and the document should also include a 3-day right to cancel. As for the Hendelmans, they were awarded nearly $500,000 in damages in their case. Neither they nor the victims from nearly a decade ago have yet to see a dime of their money. The civil case pending in Putnam County that was filed by the AG lists several more victims who were taken for about $80,000.
Part of our motivation for the lawsuit was just to make sure that that he would be held accountable. I mean, if we got something to be made somewhat whole after the situation, great. But really, we wanted to make sure that he was held accountable.
Victims hoping the hammers of justice swing swiftly, and officials say they intend to see these cases all the way through to the end.
Mr. Jones, don't go anywhere because they're coming to serve you with this warrant.
Now, Jones is not currently in custody. He is out on bond. However, we can tell you as of last Friday, the Attorney General filed a temporary restraining order against him and anyone associated with his business to prevent them from operating while cases are still pending against him. But that order will not go into effect until a judge can rule on it. So still many more stories to come out of this, a lot to come forward, and we're hoping more victims will reach out and share their stories.
I have a feeling your email inbox is going to start lighting up here. Kelsey,
yes.
Great job. Thanks so much. Now, investigators believe there could be more victims, and they say if you believe you've been a victim in this or any other, we're going to put information on the WSAZ app on how you can file a complaint.
And if you have something you'd like us to investigate here at WSAZ, you can head over to WSAZ.com, click on the Investigates tab, fill out that form on the right-hand side, and that's